Good morning. I'm Soni Shankaran, Business Development Manager here at Eventbank. We are happy to have you here with us today as we present the Future of Events in India post-COVID-19 webinar in partnership with CIM Global. As you know, current health crisis has certainly taken a toll on the event industry, and as a result, industry's future landscape is bound to transform. Many conferences and industry events worldwide are being cancelled or postponed. Event professionals need to look forward into the future and ready themselves for a revival. Today, we will hear from a diverse panel of experts as they discuss the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the event industry and the strategies on how to drive event revenue post-crisis. Let's meet the panel. Welcome Anita Niranjan, Managing Director of CIM Global India Private Limited. Welcome Sudeep Sarkar, CEO of India Expo Mart Limited. Welcome Vivek Sehgal, Principal Director of PhD Chamber of Commerce. Welcome Sanjoy K. Roy, former President at Event and Entertainment Management Association, EMA. Welcome Sandeep Bahal, Senior Director, Events of NASSCOM. Eric Schmidt, CEO and co-founder of Eventbank. Handing over to you, Eric.
Great, thank you, Sunny. Welcome, everybody, to our panel discussion on the future of events in India. We're so pleased that everybody could join us today, and certainly digging a little bit into the challenges that the industry as a whole faces, but obviously looking forward to what can people do next to really come out of this in a better situation than we began, looking at challenges, but also the opportunities. For every organization, that's different. For every organization, that means different things. But we have a great panel today of people who are across the industry and obviously across India, from different sectors of the supply chain, and obviously different experiences that we will be able to hopefully bring out today. For all the attendees who are on, we would encourage you that if you do have questions to ask the panel, please at the bottom there is the Q&A section. Go ahead and type your question into the Q&A section, and we will try to address it at some point during our panel discussion today. If it's something that we can add on to the end of somebody's comments, we will certainly do so. Otherwise, we will try to leave enough time at the end to make sure that we can go through all of them. So just to kick us off, what I would like to do is just go through at least all of our panelists today and talk a little bit about their organization's interaction with events on an annual basis. How many events you do, if you're an association, what percentage of your revenue is driven from events, so that the attendees here today can understand a little bit about the challenges that you face, and then therefore we'll dig into the opportunities as we come. So I'd like to start with Sudeep, and then we'll move around the horn here. Sudeep?
Yeah. Hi, good morning, and thanks to the Eventbank for organizing this webinar and getting us a chance to speak for India. India Expo Center and Mart is a approximately 15 years old organization with approximately 45 events per year. If we put together the last 5 years, we would have done approximately 300 odd events. With the top 10 events of India with us, and those are like Auto Expo, where my friend from Sanjoy, the EMA, a lot of member work as event managers. Then we have Elecrama, which is one of the largest in the electrical field, and then on the printing, and then going on the air conditioning, then going on the travel and tourism, and on the renewable energy, which is the Government of India's initiative as International Solar Alliance, and so on. We are covering approximately 63 odd percentage of the national capital's business with us. And currently we are at the #1 position, and I'm very happy to share with all of you that we have been awarded as the best standalone exhibition cum convention center by the Government of India. We are a ISO 14001 organization with clear guidelines for the safety, security, and the energy conservation, and of course the environmental conservation. Environment, as of now, we have been only understanding the pollution part of it, but now of course the environment has been defined as a much broader term, and the collective revenue that we are generating in the Greater Noida as a exhibition destination or a MICE destination is approximately 1,000 crore, or in Indian rupees. We can get to the dollar figure of that, and we are generating approximately 400 crores of taxes and customs for the Government of India from this destination alone. So that is the overall figure, with an annual turnover of approximately 18,000 employees working over a period of 12 months, calendar months, if I have to say, and benefiting approximately 23,000 man days in the destination Greater Noida, having the combined effect of the transportation, the hotels, and the
Thanks for we need to make sure we have enough time for everybody here. So thank you for the quick summary. Sandeep, let's just get a quick idea of what you guys are up to, how many events you guys are running per year, and also if you're willing to share what percentage of your overall budget that is part of NASCOM.
Firstly, Eric, thank you so much for this opportunity. Great. I head the National Events Division at NASCOM, and NASCOM, to people who are not aware, is the premier trade body of the tech industry in India, and we comprise about 3,000 member companies. So our events, national and international, which we do, which are roughly about 15 big events that we do, they're aimed at showcasing the industry transformation and innovation agenda. And recently we have, and I'm proud to say that we have redefined ourselves in the virtual space. So in the physical arena that we had pre-COVID, we were looking at about a 40% contribution from the events as such to the overall kitty as there. But I think going forth, there will be a sizable difference there. So that's it for my end.
How many events was that per year?
15 events per year. These are the bigger size events. And of course, we have regional events, which are conducted by our regional teams, which are more driven towards member interactions. And these are non-commercial events as such. So the classification of events from our end is the larger size events, the flagship events, which anyway would attract an audience, a fee-paying audience of anywhere between 500 onwards to 2,000 plus. And of course, the biggest impact to us is our national, our flagship event, which is organized every February. And we're hoping things will open up by then. That's something which attracts about roughly 2,000 people, and it's been going on for 28 years.
Wow. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Sanjoy?
Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. On my Teamwork hat, we do about 32 annual festivals in about 17 countries in 42 cities, about over 1,000 events annually. FICCI is, most of the chambers, I think Vivek will also say they do at least 3 to 4 events a day, if not more. And at IMA, I think for our members across the training and a knowledge field, I think we do about 300-400 events, primarily forced by COVID and online. Otherwise, it would have been it would have been very different pre-COVID.
That's great. Thank you. And Vivek, welcome. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about your organization and the types of events you guys have been running.
Yeah. Hi, Eric. Hello to everyone. First of all, a bit of apologies from my side for joining in about 7 to 8 minutes late. At PhD, we are just a 115-year-old organization, one of the foremost as in a Chamber of Commerce in India. And we cater to about 130,000 members directly and indirectly. And mainly we are a policy advocacy body, so we're not really an event company, but we create a lot of these platforms which are in form of seminars or conferences, which are essentially for policy advocacy for both state governments, central governments at the domestic level, as well as the international community. Now we have close to, as Sanjoy said, we were having anything between 3 to 4 events almost on any working day. And that could easily take up our entire year to more than 600, 650 events in an year, of which would be about 18 to 20 of them, which would be international fairs and participation in international exhibitions. So we have a completely separate internationals division on that. So that's a big size and of our revenue, as well as our operations. So thanks to COVID, we are kind of on a low ebb right now.
Yeah, pre-COVID, it sounds like you guys were pretty busy running all kinds of different programs, so not easy to do. All right, and finally to Anitha, our co-host of this event at CIMG Global, welcome. And again, obviously you guys are active across India and certainly with different types of clients. So if you don't mind just sharing your experience, and also, we'll go into the, really the next question, which is your sort of perception of where things are right now with some of the clients that you're working with and in relation to the situation as it relates to events.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you here are healthy and safe in today's environment. Thank you, Eric, for having me over in this meeting. As you know, CIM Global is a focused association management services and a professional conference organizer. Our clients are all only associations, and we do academic and research conferences for our association clients. CIM Global is in the business for the last 23 years, and we in a year average out about 35 events, which we call large scale because it is all about numbers, and it happens all over the country in 6 cities mostly if it is metropolitan, but sometimes even in tier 2 cities. And in terms of our business, live events in the term that you say, which we call face-to-face meetings, 80% of our business is live events, and 20% is our association services business. So if you would want the number, COVID has been kind of taken us off track completely, and the worst of it is. Yes, there was SARS in the past, there was H1N1 in the past, but they were all very regional in terms of impact. But COVID has been a global impact, and it's impacted organizations, and I'm sure the world terribly. At the moment, if you ask me where we are, I would say we are in a state of coma, and I would say we are in a state where we need to survive to revive, that's the state that we are in. But I do not want to sound very negative. I would like to say that yes, I'm of the opinion that we humans, and today due to technology, we can come up with a lot of solutions quicker than what it was earlier. And good news is China is open for business, so hope that India opens at the earliest. So that's a little bit of a situational, introduction that I would like to give all of you all.
Yeah, I guess quickly on that. So the clients that you've been working with, again, obviously a lot of associations who generally have one big event per year that tends to drive a lot of their revenue. What actions have they taken to really consider how they are going to make up for some of that revenue, or just completely postponing a lot of the activities that they had planned?
Eric, if you ask me, most of these events are annual events, if you look at it. And if you know, annual events usually come with an attached, number, which is the year 2020 or 2019. So year 2020 starting March to December is actually now not there. So either they are cancelled or postponed. So that's what it is for our association events. But the good news is that, they know that they have to, because it is most to do with research conferences, they know they have to come back and get into face-to-face. Quite a few of them have switched into what you call virtual events, and trying to see if they can still continue to do what they want to achieve to a certain extent through virtual events. But my only opinion is there is no second to face-to-face events. Hence, we too are working along with our clients to see how we can probably address the objectives with the combination of both virtual and, face-to-face events, which we plan to do it in the beginning of 2021.
Absolutely. Sandeep, everybody is trying to figure out how to get some of that budget, at least revenue back that had been allocated towards events, whether they're annual events, weekly events, daily events, whatever they may have been. You guys have figured out, a revenue model associated with that. Can you tell us, sort of some of the challenges you had in coming up with it and what you found that worked, and also what didn't work in that process?
Great, Eric. Eric, before I answer that question, I just want to paint a picture as far as the event industry, the global industry that stood in 2018, a combined revenue of about $1.1 trillion and a growth rate of about 10.3%, which meant that by 2026, we were looking at more than doubling the overall revenue to about close to $2.3 trillion. Interestingly, APAC was looking at contributing at about a 13.6% growth rate. And India, out of that, was looking at contributing to an increase year on year to 15%. And the size of the Indian market in 2018 was roughly $9 billion. And that was a huge growth rate. Now, imagine what has really happened, and just taking off from what Anita mentioned. It's a huge asteroid that's hit us at one time. The whole world literally has gone from globalization to slowbalization. And we've just moved from one dimension to the other dimension. In today's day and age, while there have been tremendous opportunities in the virtual event space, and that's even for us, we have moved into that sphere. What we have also got to battle in this short period of time is the movement from a pandemic to an infodemic. And what I mean by that is anybody who has a laptop is a conference producer. My 17-year-old son, my niece, they're conference producers. Right now, there is a slew of information that's really coming out. Everybody's battling for people at every juncture in terms of their time and their attention. In our terminology, it's a battle of TRP, or viewership. Over a period of time, properties that are high in content, have the right messaging, the right quality, and the right type of people who communicate various stories, they will survive. And that was our belief, that here is an opportunity for us to look into. If we ever miss this boat, there will be somebody else who will come and redefine and change the way the entire commercialization of virtual events takes place. We have a small team at NASSCOM in the event space. In literally 4 weeks, we relearned the business from a physical space into the virtual space. And I'm so proud to say that we have now got into commercialization of all our sessions. It's been a challenge, as you said. You know, what are the challenges? Of course, everyone literally is a conference producer. You have a laptop, Eric. We are producing this conference on a laptop. Today, the challenge for us is how do we cut through the clutter? How do we redefine ourselves in terms of the offerings? And over a period of time, the way we are seeing the recovery panning out, there will be a blended way in which the industry will come terms to, with a lot happening in the physical space, but a substantial chunk coming alive in the virtual space. And we see a lot of these properties that we are creating, which will be there post-COVID, also from the virtual side. And that's how we are looking at the events business, not only from our perspective, but also from the perspective of a lot more organizations, not only in India, but globally.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you've monetized these events? What are you charging? What's that model look like?
So right now we aren't charging anything from participation as in attendees, but we are monetizing this through sponsorship. And it's a tough time to go and ask people for money when their businesses has been impacted. But there are a lot of organizations who see value in something which is, which is offering something which is very unique. When we launched our own virtual fest, this was on the 22nd of April, we had quite a lot of challenges in selling things because people didn't see the value of the product as such. It's once we went live with the kind of people that came onto the platform, the quality of conversations. This is literally 15 sessions spread once in a week, right up till 13th of August. People have now started jumping onto our bandwagon and asking us that why can't we be a part of this? And I'm so proud to say that we are looking at a second series, we are looking at a third series, we're looking at a fourth series, and we have, touch wood, we have a lot of people in the pipeline who are willing to commit to sponsor. But yes, we're looking at two ways. One is to doing the events as funded by sponsors, and we are looking for a small set of events which will be funded both by sponsorship, but in a smaller way by delegate attendees, but those will be limited number of events as such.
Very interesting. Vivek, have you guys also seen a similar trend with what you guys are trying to do to make up for some of those hundreds of events that you guys are running on the annual basis?
So where we are today is a lot different from what we were when we entered the lockdown during the first week. And we did have the good fortune of, being able to reorient ourselves in a month or so, because we had to hit the ground running. And for us, it meant a lot of things to be done at the same time, because being a policy advocacy body, there were a lot of circulars, notifications coming in from the government. So that was one way where we got ourselves immediately engaged. As also, there were a lot of representations going back to the government. So in terms of doing a lot of things, we were doing much more, maybe 2x or 3x than what we were doing pre-COVID. But talking about events specifically, we again got down to it in less than a week's time by organizing webinars. And these webinars almost have hit a run rate of about 3 to 4 webinars a day now. And wherein we have various sectoral committees, as we like to call them, having these webinars, and so are our state chapters within the country who are also parallelly organizing these. So though the event run rate may be kind of close to that in terms of numbers, what we were doing in terms of physical events, but of course the revenues are going to take a much bigger hit, because the revenues are probably going to be much, much less than what we were doing in the physical events. Going forward, we are looking at various digital platforms to recreate the exhibition space, exhibition cum conferencing events. We're trying to take our annual events on the virtual platform, knowing that things may not happen for the next 6 to 9 months. And we're also trying to see in case we can, with the help of our international partners, be able to take even the international events on the virtual platform. However, I think one of the biggest challenges which we have today is in terms of raising or monetizing, as you like to call it in the event language, the webinars. That's quite tough, because I think, as Sandeep pointed out, people initially didn't see a value on anything which was virtual, because we're all used to a free virtual world, starting from Gmail to Zoom accounts or WebEx accounts, so but however, I think things are slightly changing, because even the people who want to be seen during these webinars are understanding the value of these webinars, seeing the attendance of the people, seeing the quality of the people who are coming in. The second challenge which I'd like to talk about is, how closely are we able to have, in terms of the look and feel and the experience of a virtual exhibition cum conference to the real world. So if we were to see a transformation happening from the real or the physical world to the virtual world of exhibitions and conferences, it has to be a very, very close experience to what people, whereby I mean the advertisers, the sponsors, the exhibitors, and even the people who are walking in to have a look at an exhibition or a B2B during these virtual exhibitions. How close are we able to get their experiences to a real life experience? If we are unable to do that, it's quite possible that the first few virtual exhibitions will fall flat on their faces, because it will ultimately depend upon how many exhibitors we get at the end of the day, and how many walk-ins or footfalls do we get in at that time of the day. And if the experience is not good, he may not come back to you on the second day of the exhibition, or he may not come back to you for a B2B meeting. So I think that's one of the biggest challenge which I think the event world faces today. And I think we've got some of the best brains sitting here, and we've got many more out there. We really need to work closely with each other, because we're all interdependent today. We are not working parallelly. We all have to work collectively to find out a solution closest possible to that. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah, that is certainly a challenge. I mean, webinars are much easier sell for people because they tend to be 1 hour, 3 hour. But, again, expos, it's a different experience when somebody goes to an in-person expo at a venue, to be able to, see 200 booths and, meet every exhibitor within a few hours. Whereas on a virtual expo, it's a very different experience, and trying to simulate that for folks is definitely a challenge that, is an ongoing one for many organizations at this point. Sanjoy, at least with some of the activities that you've seen, and Any other thoughts on monetization of the virtual event space?
You know, going further on what Sandeep and Vivek said, I think the biggest challenge on the ground is, you know, when you go to a live event, you create a memory because you're exchanging energy with people. It's that collective energy that produces the magic, imprints the memory, which gets you to want to come back, whether it's to the Frankfurt Book Fair or Tomorrow's World or Expo 2021 or whatever. So how do you create that in the virtual world? Almost impossible. I think one of the big tasks that all of us have collectively to look at is how can we open up, but open up responsibly, but also use the opportunity to look at some of the other concerns perhaps that we have ignored, concerns about the environment, concerns about a responsible consumption. Can we use this occasion to reboot? Can we use this occasion to collaborate? Can we use this occasion to perhaps consolidate? All very difficult words. We ourselves, I mean, wearing my teamwork hat, you know, the Jaipur Literature Festival used to get in about 500,000 people every year in January. Our largest venue was 10,500, 11,000 people. But today we have JLF Brave New World, which is an online new property that we've rolled out, where a session gets 132,000 views. So, you know, the argument is on both sides. Can we monetize it? Well, for whatever reason, we have so far been able to do so. Nowhere near the levels that we were able to do so on ground. But certainly now, you know, per episode, we're seeing revenue come in at a $3,000 to $5,000 per episode sort of, you know, sponsorship. And for our children's festival, Kahani, Magic of Storytelling, for example, which rolls out through schools, you're looking at a $2 to $3 or $5 per kid sort of, you know, a revenue coming in. But all of this, I think, will, as Sandeep and Vivek said, you know, in the struggle for eyeballs, you are competing finally with the Netflix and the Amazon Primes, etc. of the world. And we're also competing for each other's time. And all of this there is a value to it. So we need to relook at what is it that we're putting out there. Yes, it's easy, as I think Vivek or Sandeep, or I think you said, you know, any 17-year-old can set up a web conference. But what's the kind of technology that you're going to be able to get your head around? We, for example, are using now AR and VR for one of our, you know, we used to have a theater award, so we're now using AR, VR to recreate the atmosphere. We used to do a festival in Varanasi, you know, the oldest inhabited city in the world, on the banks, the Kabira Festival. We're going to look at the skin and develop that. But at the end, Eric, we all know, I mean, viewing it on you know, Zoom is quite different from being there in person. To the extent that in one of our music programs that we do every month under the banyan tree on a full moon night, we tie up and we deliver food and drink to our viewers, to the people who sign up or buy a ticket to attend it. So, you know, there are innovative solutions, but how do you innovate about the exchange of energy? And I think sociologically, and this is what we're seeing, and this is what we've been discussing. We were on a, you know, the global district, the Global Cultural District Network last week across the world. And this is one of the things we're fearing. How do you kickstart demand? And that's not necessary only for the cultural and creative space. How does a company or a corporate or a brand kickstart demand? Because by being at home, everybody's stopped buying. Everybody's realized that they don't need their 300th Louis Vuitton bag or their 20th Mercedes car. So when this lockdown lifts, what are you going to do? Because it's still going to take 3 to 6 months to fill the shelves. But what will happen to demand? And similarly, because we are all so easy on Zoom, you know, we don't have to really make an effort beyond a point. It's pretty much like when social media 2.0 came into being, Twitter, and allowed us to be nasty without the connection, allowed us to comment without actually engaging and speaking. This sociologically and psychologically is creating a distance between us. It's creating very convenient spaces for us to exchange ideas and thoughts without engaging. Huge problem.
Absolutely. And actually, you brought up one point that, you know, doesn't come up too often in the conversations that I've had over the last month or so, which is the AR and VR opportunities that exist for event organizers. You know, this is actually a potential opportunity for many organizations to try to simulate some of the, you know, live experiences that people can have. You know, obviously Facebook is famous for their conference that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg did with everybody with VR, you know, goggles at their launch. But, you know, beyond that, we haven't necessarily seen a wide adoption, you know, worldwide, at least at events that actually has taken place. So definitely something to keep an eye on and potentially opportunities.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at shipping out goggles for our premier delegates to be able to get a, you know, an experience. But at the end of the day, it's still in your room. It's still your drink.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess let's talk a little bit on, you know, Sudeep, obviously your venue, you guys obviously have event space, probably out of everybody, probably the most hit when it comes to a lockdown because nobody's hosting events inside the walls. You know, what are you guys looking at moving forward? How are you thinking about, you know, what happens next once, you know, people start coming back? How are you thinking about to make sure that the safety is there, people's, you know, feel secure when they show up to a venue? And what kind of changes does a venue have to make if they really want to, you know, survive over the next 12 to 18 months?
Am I still okay? For example, today while coming, I received an email from a very leading publication, newspaper publication, that I have won approximately 1800 Indian currency as a token of appreciation since I have attended some of their webinar. Sandeep, you just mentioned about so many webinars happening. So yes, to fill in the blank, for some time, the platforms, the web, the Zoom meetings would definitely be required, and to fill in the gap, as long as the physical exhibitions or the interactions, or as nicely put by Sanjay, the energy between in holding one-to-one interaction doesn't start. But we have to remember one thing: platforms or the digital media or that of the conferences or exhibitions are one part that we are talking about. Here, if we view and the entire ecosystem of the overall you know, risk for holding the events have to be mitigated. Today, if there is a viruses come in, we are all saying yes, we need to take a lot of precautions and we need to be more you know, focused about the safe security. Well taken, and we are quickly moving on to the digital arena. Nobody knows it better than us, because 2 days from now we are launching the first ever digital exhibition on an Indian platform with more than 2,000 participants on it. I have a promo also available with me. If you allow, I can share that screen and show you. That is required. That is required to fill in the gap, as I am saying, because that is the backbone of the and small and medium scale enterprises. We need to sustain the economy, because the MSME has back-to-back workers, and these workers, many of them are living below poverty line. We have to support them. We have to start the business. We have to start the production. We have to start the you know, selling of it and start getting the economy into a run. That is required. That's full marks for the next 4, 5, 6 months. Maybe that would fill in the gap very well. But yes, the entire eco chain has to be sustained. If you only look at the cobweb space of the virtual. Today we are talking about the sanitation and all. You have moved to the virtual. Tomorrow, if there is all of a sudden a virus attack on the entire virtual platform, then again you will run back to the physical exhibition. So this running around will continue. But what we need to do is to look at the entire ecosystem of the value chain of the MICE or the Indian or any exhibition industry, wherein the government, the organizers, the the venue partners, the service partners, the service providers, all need to come together. Realize this result. Yes, there had been a pause, and that pause now requires re-looking at the SOPs of holding the events, and that would require some standard operating procedures for the venues, the service providers, and the visitors. A, B, the processes would be more enabled so that interaction, if at all it happens more on a digital mode till the time the exhibitor or the service provider or the visitor comes in one-to-one contact with the business partner. And C, the role of the hybrid, as has been spoken by Sandeep, Vivek, and Sanjay, would play a crucial time from now on in order to the physical events till the time the normal becomes an actual normal, and people then really move around and participate in different events. For this, I see from the venue point of view, three things are very, very important. Of course, we need to have an SOP. B, particularly in India centric, I'm saying, you need to have a lot of interactive signages and messages to the organizer, visitors, service providers, that how to follow that SOP, because it's a big country with a cheap, with a lot of service providers. The kind of SOP, the maintaining of the SOP becomes at a one point of time becomes a challenge. It needs to be looked at very, very closely. And see, the technology should enable the visitors and the exhibitors to come more closely, given the pre or non-COVID situation. That would be more useful to pick up the entire platform to and sustain that level. If we only look at the webinars and the virtual platform, yes, I myself am launching it, 2,000 plus exhibitors. It has taken me 45 days with the guide of my chairman, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, and Export Promotion Council of Handicrafts, to prepare that. Over more than 200 employees are on the work with the has been put by Sandeep, that anybody having a laptop can start a virtual event. Yes, we have made thorough inroads into it, but yes, that is only a hand-holding, as Sanjay says, that energy interaction at a venue in a live platform, physical platform happens. Till the time, thank you to Sandeep and Vivek for handholding and giving the economy a push. We are waiting eagerly for the SOPs in place to and restart.
Great. Anita, as you're advising your clients here now, what are you suggesting them to do, and really making sure that they're prepared for at least coming out of this, and potentially looking at some potentially hybrid event models, partly people in person, maybe some people online? How are you guys thinking about this, and sort of creatively coming up with solutions that's going to make it work for your clients?
There are multiple things that we are suggesting, Eric. Primarily, the first thing is, yes, for the events that are probably postponed, we are at least saying, okay, we continue to work towards marketing those events. But for events that our organizers want to cancel and look at it in a different way, we are trying to suggest them cities which are now open up for business, which will open up for business early. Like, for example, out of all the cities, I would say Bangalore today is quite open for, at least getting to offices. And I'm sure once the lockdown goes away, we will be back in at least smaller groups, if not larger groups. So they could either, split into multiple events, region-wise, and still bring a lot of, people together and continue to have their events. The third thing that we are suggesting is, of course, virtual, where, if the problem or if the whole thing can be addressed through virtual events, yes, virtual events is one thing that we are suggesting. If you ask me, for all our associations, their EC meetings, their general body meetings today are happening virtual. So, which is also one of a lot of smaller meetings that were happening. So it's kind of, completely moved to virtual. And thanks to Government of India also, which has now allowed all this to happen virtually, and take it as, because there are some regulatory stuff as well. In terms of, when we bounce back, or I would divide the stages at the moment into 3 stages, Eric. One is at the moment when the lockdown is on in most cities, there are no face-to-face meetings that are going to happen. When the lockdown gets released, I'm sure a few face-to-face meetings can happen, but not many, and maybe smaller groups. Then the later ones, I would say, a stage where a cure and a vaccine is found, because at the moment people are paranoid, they are not ready to travel. So once that happens, that is when the whole industry is going to bounce back. That is my little, assessment. So what we are trying to tell people is to get, now go through this first phase, convert as many to virtual events. In the second phase, come back to smaller events. And in the third phase, if we can, even in the second phase, if we can bring back most events into places which are less, risky, is what we are suggesting, moving cities, moving venues, so that your event should happen, like I told you earlier about the annual events. And then when business bounces back, I am sure it will take a while, but I'm sure it will come back to the level that it is or more when it bounces back. So we are quietly preparing people. What has happened is, as mentioned by most speakers earlier, conferences are not just two-way communication. There are multiple stakeholders. So it is very important to keep engagement going. So now we are talking to our, so-called important stakeholders who are the sponsors and exhibitors, to see how they would like to engage with our association members through virtual, through, communication, and maybe one-to-one meetings as well. So this is where we are trying to bridge that little gap for our stakeholders wherever possible.
One of the questions here is, when do you think physical events will be coming back? What's your prediction?
So if you ask me, the way it is one is, I would look at it not before 2021, October, November is my, prediction, because I think a lot of people are at the moment not willing to travel. Travel will resume, in my opinion, in stages. So people getting into their own cars and driving will be the first sort of travel that will happen. Flight travel will be only, when very needed, not for, conferences and things like that. And when people will choose to travel, I'm sure will be when at least a cure or a vaccine is in place.
Great. Sanjoy, you wanted to add something.
I just wanted to respond to what Sudeep said and perhaps what Anita said. Sudeep, we have put into place a new protocol which has been sent to Government of India, and we had a meeting with a joint task force last week in terms of how do you open up exhibition centers, event places, etc. The good news is that hopefully it'll be tabled in the coming weeks. The bad news is that the number of people allowed into a venue, especially into a closed space, will be at the 1/3 number. And at 1/3 number, we know that economically it may not be viable, certainly for theaters and venues, but perhaps for exhibition spaces, we've been trying to tell them to look beyond. We also had a very good meeting and sharing with the hotel associations to see how they can create, a top of the mind protocol and start building trust. I think the issue, what Anita brought up, is the fear factor is so huge. You can't step out of the house, you're immediately going to drop dead, but that's not true. I mean, this is a virus like all other viruses. And Anita, just to point out that it took 5 decades for the polio vaccine to roll out across the length and breadth of India. So even when the vaccine gets discovered, and if it gets discovered, in this case, it's not just about India, it's 70% herd immunity across the world, which will then contain the vaccine, ain't happening anytime soon. So let's learn to live with it as we have all of the other catastrophes that the world has gone through. And let's put into place responsible protocols to make sure that we can open up businesses and activities in a way that helps everybody. And the one thing that we've said to government, Sudeep, and that's perhaps most important for you guys, is that maybe these centers could also become voluntary testing places, because people are frightened about going to a hospital. But if they're coming to an exhibition, can you set up a voluntary testing center for the virus? You know, how can you do it? As you know, sports have said they will, lock everybody down for 14 days and, during the event and blah, 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 and for film shooting. But we're saying that that's economically not at all practical to have people coming to an exhibition to be locked down for 14 days and then exhibition for 3 days or 5 days and then another 14 days. It's not practical. So I think we need to evolve practical solutions, but most importantly, collectively, each and every one of us has to push back on the fear and the hatred and put into place good protocol, which is sustainable, economically viable, and allows us to open up.
Very good points. Sudeep, you wanted to add something here.
Yeah. I also didn't mention that I am the Vice President of Indian Exhibition Industries Association, board member of India Convention Promotion Bureau by Tourism. Yes, Sanjoy, I heard that, and we have prepared a set of standard SOP and have met the minister and have submitted. And the Minister of Road Transport, Shri Nitin Gadkari, a few days or a week back, had addressed to the entire Indian exhibition industries community that is being received, reviewed, and the permission for holding the events will be readily given. The executive committee of the IIA has been working towards it to start the exhibitions, to start the ball rolling, because with the SOPs, it seems that whatever point Sanjay is saying to take care of has been. But we have to understand one thing, that it's a situation. Of course, it is a situation, and there are certain measures that need to be taken, but the measures cannot be extreme, because we have to understand that we are sitting in Delhi or in the national capital of region. There are other metros, but then there are tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 cities also. So in India, it's a variety of socio-economic structure. We are saying one practice, that practice has to hold good not only in tier 1 but also in tier 2. So we have to keep that in mind. Keeping that in mind, UFI, the exhibition headquarter of the entire exhibitions across India, has given a very operating procedure, a very workable, adaptable procedure for all the venues to work with. Thankfully, we have adopted it, and we have announced that yes, we are UFI compliant norms and all. But again, I am saying that there are certain protocols that need to come in place. The information about the labor working at the venue, the service provider getting pre-registered with the venue, the e-enabled or the technology enabled for the visitors and exhibitors coming inside the venue, social distance, as Sanjay very rightly said, for exhibition venues, we can give more space for exhibitions to hold so that the aisle space could be much larger. The, let's say for a 10,000 square meter exhibition, we offer them a 20,000 square meter space. Yes, we are ready for that. We have already given that proposal to the Government of India. But that is it. If we too skewed and the government comes out with a regulation that you have to follow these regulations, it's become very difficult for a country like India to, live with it.
That's the reason we need to put the proposals out there first, Sudeep, before government.
The proposal has already gone from IIA and from India Convention. It has already been submitted and it's under review. The minister has conveyed very warmly that yes, they are
guys,
going
we
to it.
want to move on from this topic. Probably going a little bit too deep for some of our attendees, but nonetheless, obviously an important aspect. I would like to get to one of these questions though, and we'll start with Sandeep and then go to Vivek. For doing webinars and such online events in second and third tier towns and villages where the use of technology isn't prevalent or they aren't that proficient in the use of technology, are there any ideas how to do with awareness camps and webinars to them to address the micro sector in MS?
Yeah, so Eric, that's a fantastic question. And this has been going on for quite some time, given that we have quite a lot of issues in terms of broadband. But if you look at it, what we are doing is that we are also putting the conversation on YouTube and various other platforms so that people who weren't able to see it live have an opportunity to see it too. Of course, while we try and replicate the overall experience, it's a tough one to do in India in terms of tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities too. But yes, if it can't be live, then it can be a delayed link, which people can view too. Eric, if I may just add on to what Sanjoy and Sudeep have spoken about earlier, I see it as an industry challenge. And we have to come together as an industry for once and stand together firm to reaffirm to people that we are open for business when we go back into the physical space, and also build trust. It's very essential. If it is done in individual pockets, then each of us will have to go back and inspire confidence, build trust with people. And I think now is the time for the industry to stand together and deliver it in terms of being together. The one more thing that I would like to say, and this is from my own personal experience, and this is entirely different in terms of the conversation, is isn't it ironical that the platforms that we created for sharing disruptive ideas have actually got us to be disrupted? And I think the writing was on the wall earlier, and we didn't see it coming. In fact, one of the key jokes that I have with my team is that we used to have futurists, soothsayers from the industry who used to come onto our platforms and talk about, the year ahead, what does it look like? And none of them could predict this. And the telling aspect has been that while we look at the platforms where people came and talked about disruption in their industry, nobody spoke about disruption in the events industry. And today it's coming alive in front of us. Interestingly, it is technology which has come to our rescue today for every aspect today in terms of whether it's virtual, whether it is AR, VR in this phase. And I'm so proud to be a part of this industry, which has led to our survival during this period of time. Not only survival, but is also redefining ourselves. And coming back to Sudeep, when he mentioned that, it's all about virtual. No, it's a phase right now till we evolve to the next level. It will be a next level of evolution where we will see blended models emerging. Yes, it could be, in Sudeep's case, it could be 100%, which would happen as far as the physical space is concerned. But the way that we are viewing things, we would see a blended model eventually coming into play, where we will see the physical space coexisting with the virtual phase. And also at the same time, when you look at the virtual events, the enhancement of the experience will be higher thanks to technology. Thanks.
Thank you. Vivek, would you like to add to the webinar question in smaller cities and the challenges that they have, and any suggestions for those people to be able to be participating in some of the things that you guys are doing across the country.
Okay, so before I actually come to that question, Eric, I'd just like to make a point where there was a slight disconnect between what Sudip said versus what Sanjoy said. But I think we must understand one thing today, that any change is always resisted. And today we are all going through that period. We are going through that time period. So it's very important that we accept the change, and whether the industry is back in action in October 2020 or March 2021 or October 2021, we are currently faced with the reality, and we will have to actually not evolve, but I think we'll have to drastically change, and change now. And change now as per today's circumstances. We don't know what's happening in the next 6 months. So it's better to accept the fact that this is what is going to stay with us. So virtual platforms will have to be created, which will have the right simulation, as you like to put it. And we'll have to go ahead and move ahead with business. So that's one very, very important thing. Coming back to your question, see, I remember the evolution of desktops in India, which was way back in 1995, where I was part of an organization who launched it for the first time in India. I'm talking of home computers. And I remember going out to the market and people telling me, are you nuts? You think we'll need a computer at home? The times have changed. We talked about people having individual laptops. Again, people laughed at it. It's a reality today. Mobile phones, look at the penetration. Look at a mobile phone being used by a rickshawala in India, a plumber in India. So when you talk about 2-tier cities or 3-tier cities, I'm not pessimistic about it, because if a rickshawala in India can get used to a smartphone, there is no way that the 2-tier cities or 3-tier cities will lag behind on accepting technology and get into virtual events, either as a delegate or as a B2B meeting or as an exhibitor. So I think it's a matter of time, and like we have seen any technology, it goes from top to bottom. This is exactly what's going to happen in this as well.
Thank you. We're going to now go to the quick question and answer segment. I'm going to pull some of these questions. Please try to summarize your answer within 1 minute, and then we're going to wrap up here. So the first question is, we're going to throw this to Sanjoy. Would you throw some light on the wedding segment in terms of really big weddings, needs, challenges, wants, demands, and how this industry is going to react in the coming months? There was a lot of money in obviously in weddings, and how is this going to change?
As I said to our colleagues in the wedding and social event sector, I said, you know, all of this time, bigger, brighter, better was the sort of motto. You need to change that. Small, experiential, niche weddings are the need of the moment. And for that 50% wedding, because you're right now at a stage where you can only allow for 50 people, can you do something that's extraordinary? Because remember, it's about 50 people at one point in one place. So can you make 10 beautiful places where people experience pretty much like an environment? You go from place to place or room to room, or for those higher net worth individuals, well, you can still charter a plane and take them to those 26 islands that have been advertising themselves online, happy to receive guests. But I say this in jest, but what I'm saying is there is an opportunity. Rethink it. Again, look at rebooting, look at the environment, look at consumption. Do you need 5,000 dishes in a wedding to show how much money you have? You can do the same thing without necessarily affecting your top or bottom line. But think out of the box. In fact, forget thinking out of the box. Move the box and then look at what's new.
Great. Next question here for Anitra. Companies were booking banquet spaces for their product launches. How are they launching their products now in a minute or less?
Like I said, I think in the SOPs that are going to come to hotels, the number of participants in the room is going to be limited because of the distancing. I think it has to be a combination of both, live event and as much they could even connect virtually for the same event. So I think that's the way it is going to be, or run it parallel in different halls. So that's how we need to optimize it and run it.
Great, thank you. Sandeep, you did touch upon sponsorship models to generate revenue, but any other ideas on other ways to generate revenue given the price sensitivity of doing educational webinars?
So yeah, there's plenty that we are thinking about, in terms of monetization, and we are also looking at the aspect of bringing in product displays. How do you also get, things associated with research in terms of white papers, launches? There's quite a lot that we can do. And this is literally the start point of, the conversation that we're having on and adding in many more revenue streams as we go along the path. All I would just like to end with is, the famous quote of the past, which is from Andy Warhol, who said, in the future, everybody will be successful and visible for those 2 minutes. We'll get a 2 minutes of fame. I think events going ahead in the future, and right now from the virtual phase to the physical phase and back into a hybrid model, as I would predict, our future is going to be just 2 seconds of fame. And we need to start working towards it. You never know, amongst the 10 to 12 models that we create from monetizing events today may lead to 2 very successful models that will remain with us as we go back into the physical space. And Anita also rightly pointed out, it's going to take us time, and so did Sanjoy. So in the interim, let us also look at how we can use the opportunity to try and monetize various aspects. It could be from the attendance factor, it could be pure sponsorship, it could be a marriage of various things and offerings from the research frontage. It could be also, different ways of looking at things in conversations with the sponsors, because at the end of the day, it's the sponsors who see value in things when they can actually talk to their audience and get something out of it. So there's going to be a complete change. And as I said, we have given this as a platform for people to disrupt in terms of having the conversations. Now it is our time to get disrupted. And when we evolve into the next phase, we will see a very different industry that will emerge.
Absolutely, and obviously to wrap up, so EventBank, obviously we were providing software to, event organizers, associations, chambers of commerce, and we ourselves have spent the last 3 months since it first hit our China operations rethinking how our clients need to be able to use technology to bridge the gap between people, between events, from a community standpoint, which we saw the video at the beginning, and also a webinar standpoint, virtual events, and some of the other challenges that organizations are certainly faced with today to really be able to manage it, but also to go digital in many cases. And that's really sort of the membership management automation and some of the other tools that we've created, via really at the core as a CRM. To wrap up, one last thing, just to show everybody something that we did launch last week is our webinar engagement platform. Just want to show a quick video and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So I do hope next time that that we do host this this webinar back here in India, we will be able to all exchange virtual business cards online, so everybody can walk away not only with good information, but also even more connections than when you started. The missing piece and the missing element of certainly a lot of virtual events today is that connection piece of what everybody wants to be able to have and share. So I do want to thank all of our panelists here today. Appreciate their comments, and of course CIM Global for co-hosting this event with us. I guess now we are in the afternoon, so we can officially say that. But thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to making sure that everybody is able to see each other in person, hopefully very soon, and we're able to actually shake hands at some point in the near future. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
And here's a virtual high five to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.